What's up guys? My name is Zack and today I am driving a 2020 Jeep Gladiator Rubicon. Up front is a 3.6 liter V6 and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this Jeep Gladiator for several reasons, but mainly the fact that this is a pretty heavily modified Jeep Gladiator. It might not be faster than normal, it might not be insane modifications, but we're going to spend the video talking about how modular and how modifiable these vehicles are and why you might want to do it and what you might want to do to your Jeep. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. Lastly, huge thank you to Chicago Cars US here in Summit, Illinois for letting me borrow their Gladiator for today's video. They have tons of really cool inventory, old German sports cars, new luxury cars, really cool stuff, so please go check out their inventory down in the description below. But let's get back to that 3.6 liter V6. Well, that is the standard engine that came in almost all Gladiators. They did offer an eco diesel for a short amount of time, but odds are if you see a Gladiator, it probably has this under the hood. Nothing is currently modified with this engine for this particular Gladiator. However, some people have supercharged these engines. If you do want to make more power, people have done that. Or the real lunatics of the world have put a V8 in here from other Chrysler products like the 5.7 liter Hemi or the 6.4 liter V8 from the Wrangler 392. Now that is going to require quite a bit of work, so the supercharged tends to be the more favorable option because it's just a few nuts and bolts rather than a full engine out build. Like I said, paired to it is an automatic transmission. It is an 8-speed, and you could find these Gladiators in this era with the manual. They no longer currently offer it here in 2025 with a manual, but you could find them with a manual transmission. People don't really mod these automatics, so you're not really going anywhere with that. Last but not least, this of course is 4-wheel drive. All Gladiators are 4-wheel drive. This is lifted on bigger tires, on bigger wheels. However, it does have the factory power disconnecting sway bars and front and rear locking differentials. So those are factory equipment on the Rubicon. How does it feel to drive the modified Rubicon Gladiator? It's not lovely. It is tall, and it doesn't ride great. No Jeep really rides good unless you get into the luxury segment, like with the Grand Wagoneer. But Gladiators and Wranglers do not ride nice, and so the story is the exact same here with this Gladiator. The tires are a lot louder because they are a lot chunkier. Visibility isn't great. You do really feel that military heritage when looking out of this bunker of a truck, but that's not why you buy this. You buy this truck to modify, and so we'll continue to talk about that. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a mix of physical and digital gauges. So off to the left is our tachometer and which wheel drive we are currently in. In the center, we get a screen. So this has a digital speedometer, digital coolant gauge, and digital fuel gauge. And then off to the right, we have a physical speedometer as well. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our selectors for that gauge cluster screen, as well as our phone options and voice commands, and off to the right we have our cruise control. Now moving out of the door, this is where you'll find the first of many modifications. This is a handle that also has certain buttons. So this is an aftermarket piece, and you'll have a train horn, pillar lights, and our light bar functionality all found here on the grab handle. Very cool. But down below we have the standard climate vent, standard headlight switches, and gauge dimmer switch. Moving out of the door, we have power mirrors and power locks. However, the windows are famously found in the center. Moving into the center, we first of all have an aftermarket phone mount by Bullet Point Mounting Solutions. It's a little aggressive for holding your little TikTok machine, but that's okay. And we have an aftermarket radio here in the center. So this is what the standard radio looked like in the 2020 Gladiator. This is a huge upgrade, and this radio actually does work with the functionality of the rest of the car. So when you change the temperature on the inside, it still appears here on the screen. When you put it into reverse, the backup camera still works. So very cool. This is a retrofitted radio for a bigger, more modern feeling. Down below, we do have climate controls. We have heated seats as well as a heated steering wheel, dual zone climate, and like I said, all that functionality still works. Down below, we have our window switches, media off to the right for USB-C, USB-A, and aux. And then we have our aftermarket goodies. So off to the left is a PSI gauge because this is hooked up to a train horn, or a train horn is hooked up to this. So there's an onboard air compressor, and this Jeep actually utilizes the factory auxiliary switches that Jeep gives you. All right, so 1, 2, and 3 are hooked up to the compressors and valves. 4 vents it, and then we come up here. Should have enough PSI. And then listen. When you buy a brand new Jeep Gladiator, these 4 switches don't do anything, but you could wire whatever you want to them. So a previous owner wired an air compressor and air horn to this switch, and it is very, very loud. Off to the left, we do have our standard factory locking diffs as well as our sway bar and off-road mode. We have this shifter in the center, 4-wheel drive shifter off to the left, and cup holders that unfortunately failed the big friggin' bottle test. We do get a physical handbrake, really love to see that, and a dual opening center console with nothing cool beyond that besides a USB-A. The seats are stock, they do say Rubicon on them, they are heated. However, they are not power. Jeep only recently started putting power seats into the Wrangler and Gladiator products, so not found here. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're on the back of the Jeep Gladiator Rubicon, and pretty much everything back here is stock. There are these aftermarket grab handles on the headrests of the front seats. Really, really like that. We do have climate vents down here. We have window switches, USB-C as well as USB-A, a wall outlet, and cup holders. And we do get a little center console here with even more cup holders. So plenty to love back here. You can also, of course, take the roof off because it is a Jeep. And so you could sit back here out on safari and really get to experience the world from a very cool point of view in relative comfort. My knees have plenty of space. My head has plenty of space. This is an okay place to be. And so for an adventure vehicle, I'll take what I can get. Let's hop out real quick. We'll take a quick look at the bed and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. So of course this Gladiator is raised up, and we do have a lock and unlock on the key fob. However, we don't have a tailgate release on the key fob as I'm trying to fold this in. There we go. All right, so pull this down. Pretty standard bed area. Again, this does not have any modifications besides that is the air compressor for the train horn that will absolutely decimate your eardrums. This is also an aftermarket tonneau cover. It is a hard one, so very, very cool there, but otherwise pretty standard Jeep Gladiator around the back of this huge beast. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and obviously this is a very different look than what you would have standardly got out of the Jeep Gladiator in 2020. It has added lights, it has bigger wheels, it's lifted, it has push bars and bumpers, and that's kind of the nice part about this. We will get into my final thoughts here in a second, but overall I do think the Gladiator in this format, when modified, does look really good. It's one of the very few cars that you can modify pretty easily, and it does make the truck look better. Most modifications make the cars look worse, but Jeep knows that you're going to modify it, so they give it those big wheel arches so you can fit bigger wheels. They make the suspension easy to modify on purpose. They know that you're going to do what you want to do with it. So that is very, very cool, and they allow for that to happen. A Jeep is an accessory lover's dream, and I love to see that. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a 2020 Jeep Gladiator Rubicon with lots of added bits aftermarket? Well, I don't like driving it. Plain and simple, I don't like the ride. I don't like how Jeeps handle, and this is true with new Jeeps, old Jeeps. They just don't drive great. But if you can put up with that, I really enjoy how modular and how open to customization these vehicles are. You can make your Jeep Wrangler or Gladiator whatever you want it to be, to fit your lifestyle. If you like buying gadgets and gizmos, these vehicles are great for you because there's so much aftermarket available. I had no idea that you could even buy aftermarket grab handles that have buttons in them. I didn't know you could get an aftermarket radio. I didn't know you could fit all of these things in it. And so as someone that likes buying added things, making their cars evolve, this is something really cool. Now, some of this stuff might not be my personal taste, my personal cup of tea. But the most important thing about the First Amendment is the fact that it is for everyone and everything. You might not like what some people say, but I firmly believe that they should be able to say it. Now, I should be able to say whatever I want in retaliation. And so I like the fact that you can make a Gladiator whatever you want it to be. I like that you have that ability. Me personally, I would probably leave it pretty close to stock, maybe do wheels and tires and call it a day. But you, with your Gladiator, you can draw something on a piece of paper, and I'm sure there's an aftermarket supplier that will sell you the parts required to build your dream. That's what I love about this. This is a build-your-own adventure vehicle. You don't see that with a Mazda CX-5. You don't see that with a Toyota Camry. Jeep encourages it. They pat you on the back and say, yeah, the thing's sweet. If you go to a Jeep event, you're always going to see unique builds and unique vehicles. No two Wranglers or Gladiators look alike. And that is where the fun starts. If you enjoy getting little gadgets, if you enjoy evolving your car, maybe you've owned this Gladiator since it was new in 2020, and you want to make it feel new again. You want to get that high. You want to get that feeling of, ooh, it's something new. I get to focus on this. I get to do the research on what winch to buy, what's the best, what's the strongest, what fits my needs, ordering the winch, putting the winch on, inviting the guys over, cracking some cold ones, installing the winch, and then going out and using the winch, using it at Badlands Off-Road Park, using it at the cliffs, using it out in Moab. And then, ooh, you're out at Moab and someone has bigger wheels and they're kind of handling the terrain a little bit better. So then you go home, you do your research on the wheels, you figure out the wheels that you want, you get some buddies over, crack some cold ones, put the wheels on. It's a never-ending cycle of building and changing and modifying. And so if that's your goal, if that's something that you want, this Jeep does a very good job of that. Choose your own adventure. And that's freedom. I don't know what else to tell you. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Chicago Cars US here in Summit, Illinois for letting me borrow their Gladiator for today's video. They are absolutely wonderful. Like I said at the beginning, they have really, really cool and interesting, unique inventory. They have old cars, new cars, whatever you might want, you can find it there. They are truly a candy store, so please go browse their inventory down in the description below. And I feel like this is the beginning of a very exciting relationship between Shooting Cars and Chicago Cars US. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.